This is KUGAN, CASSIUS for Rifle TV in association with Martinez in Marbella. We're at the press conference of heavy duty Joshua versus Cornish, September 12th.
Yeah.
Live on Sky Sports. With me I've got Adam Smith.
Hi KUGAN, how are you?
How are you?
Good, very good, thank you.
Dramatic night at the Manchester Arena. Just, gutted for Crolla as everyone in the whole arena was, and, from the story, from what happened, it's been told 100 times, but you've just got to feel for him, Adam.
Absolutely, I mean, it's a well-worn cliche now, but you won't find a nicer guy in boxing than Anthony Crolla. I think that even if you're looking at it through rose-tinted glasses on Saturday night, as so many people were willing Anthony to pull it off in front of a huge Manchester crowd and a wonderful support, I think even if you are, you just sort of take that to one side. I think it's very difficult to find an argument for Perez winning the fight, drawing the fight. Personally, I thought Crolla won without the point deductions anyway. I had him just up. I don't think you can say a robbery if there weren't the point deductions. If the point deductions hadn't happened, it was a pretty close fight. But I think that I certainly had him up with the point deductions. I think he was 2-3, some thought 4. Jeff Powell thought he won every round. I mean, there was. I didn't find anybody that didn't think Anthony Crolla won that fight. So for him, it's a terrible disappointment. But he shouldn't look at it like that. He put on his best performance ever of his whole career at a time where people were thinking, he's got the dream chance, but surely after the rehabilitation from the awful ordeal of what happened, how could he perform like that? He seemed to grow in confidence round after round. He boxed a very intelligent fight. Credit to Joe Gallagher, especially for that performance and for Scott Quiggs. And I thought Anthony Crolla came of age. I think this has been a wonderful year for him. He shouldn't be down in the dumps about it at all. He should think that he was very, very unlucky. Eddie Hearn should fight for the rematch. He should be a world champion. But most importantly, Anthony Crolla conducted himself with dignity and class afterwards. I thought he was absolutely the perfect example for any young fighter. I think it's been an incredible few days for Crolla, and he should be happy about it, not sad.
There was some news yesterday that the WBA will review the scoring. I don't know what that will result in, but obviously we know that Eddie will try everything he can to force an immediate rematch, but things are not that simple, are they, Adam?
Of course they're not. KUGAN, we've had controversies before, haven't we? Remember when Ray Beltran came over and fought Ricky Burns? I remember some very wide scorecards. Damien Kelly in a European title fight with Simone Maladrotu, and Tommy Gilmore and I were just talking about that. There's been many, obviously in Vegas, De La Hoya fights, and there's all sorts of times
Pacquiao
Bradley. There's all sorts of times where you just think, how could those three judges have seen it like they did? But that's why there are three of them. There's not one. There's three of them, and you've got to put your faith in them. Otherwise there's not a system in place. Unfortunately, Anthony Crolla didn't get the decision, but we all know that he won the fight, in quotes, and he put on a great performance. So let's hope that Eddie now, with his authority in the boxing world, can force either a rematch or can pay Perez to come back, or just get Crolla another opportunity. That's really all you can do. But as far as I say, going back to Anthony, he shouldn't feel down about this, because he's covered himself in glory. And from where he was 7 months ago, he had the amazing opportunity. He took it with both hands. And I'm personally, even from the TV side, very proud of him. But Darlis Perez is a good fighter, and he had his moments in the fight. And I wonder if they do get back in the ring, whether you'll see a better Perez. That's always the worry, that that there's that one moment, and if you don't take that. But I think Crolla will come even more. He's proved it before. He did it against John Murray. He stepped up a level again against Perez. Why not? Why not win it next time, Anthony Crolla? It would be wonderful if he could do it.
Absolutely. We saw Kiko Martinez destroyed by Scott Quigg inside 2 rounds, and then over the other side we saw not Frampton struggle, but towards the earlier rounds he was dropped twice, and then he finished the fight stronger and won the fight. But
which is great news.
Yeah, obviously, because we need these two to keep winning.
Of course we do. Carl Frampton's a terrific fighter. I've always liked Carl. Amateur pedigree, phenomenal. Professional qualities there for all to see. He's strong, he's robust, he adapts, Carl. And he needed to adapt, didn't he, over the water on Saturday night. Sign of a good fighter. Gets in trouble early, comes back, finds a way to win, even on a difficult night. But Scott Quigg answered a lot of critics, didn't he, on Saturday? No one's done that to Kiko Martinez. I was very worried about Scott in the first round. I thought Kiko Martinez looked strong, fiery, really ready to come and take this title. And Quigg was backing off, he was under a lot of pressure. But when he found that uppercut in the second round, a predatory finish was terrific. And I thought that was Scott Quigg's most devastating display yet on the night that he needed it most, when he knew Carl Frampton was fighting over there, he was fighting here. So, most people pick Frampton for that. I wonder if one or two have changed their minds. Certainly it's a fascinating story going forth, and obviously one day we hope that they meet for real. But great news that both of them came through.
Absolutely. Obviously we're at the press conference here ahead of September the 12th. Joshua against the unbeaten Scot in Gary Cornish. A step up, obviously, to what he's faced in his career so far, Joshua.
Absolutely, for a major title, that's the first thing. Gary Cornish, unbeaten fighter, unbeaten, I believe, as an amateur as well as a pro. Big guy. Big guys are dangerous. Ask David Price all about that. Upsets happen in the heavyweight division. We've seen it time and time again. I was just talking the other day about the Cole Campbell fight with Johnny, and we were going through all the sort of upsets, the Gomez-Arthur one, when Khan was destroyed by Bradis Prescott. And one that I'd forgotten about was David Hay and Carl Thompson, and that was about the same sort of stage as Joshua is now. Obviously that was at cruiserweight, but Carl Thompson came and just used his experience now. Gary Cornish has got absolutely nothing to lose. Yes, we imagine Anthony Joshua would deal with Cornish and move on to bigger and better things. But if you're a Gary Cornish, you want to be the first guy to really trouble Joshua. And maybe he's the first guy going in with real intent. He's an undefeated fighter. He wants that title as much as Joshua. Whether he's got the skill set, the power and the strength and the chin to deal with Joshua, I don't know. But he's got a chance, and he'll take that opportunity. And why not? It's a heavyweight fight. It's for a major belt. Let's get it on.
A fight that was talked about over the last few months was a potential fight between Anthony Joshua and David Price. And Friday night, obviously, David Price has, been, however you want to call it, out in Germany and having these sort of tick-over fights to get his confidence back and, to propel him onto bigger things. But Erkan Tepe, I didn't know too much about him, but they were fighting for the European title when. Sure. Within 2 rounds, and like you said, it's heavyweight boxing, these things happen, but where does this leave David Price, Adam?
It's very tough for David. I like David Price very much as a man, as a guy, as a person. I think he's been terrific for British boxing, ambassadorial really in many ways. I love the way that he conducts himself. We had him a few years ago and he was absolutely flying. He was knocking out people like Sam Sexton and just destroying domestic opposition. The loss of Tony Thompson, back in with the same guy and losing again, must have really hurt his confidence. But he seemed to be, rehabilitating, restoring himself under the Sauerlands. And I was very surprised to see how quickly he was taken out on Friday. It's a cruel business, isn't it? Heavyweight boxing is obviously the glamour division, but it can also shorten careers. Fighters can get knocked out. I think it's going to be really hard for David. He's not a young pup. He's got a family, a life in Liverpool. If he was a youngster, Johnny Nelson, who I work alongside, as you know, and his story, he didn't get knocked out, but he lost early fights. And what he did was he rebuilt overseas. He became a sparring partner. He took fights at short notice. He won some, lost some. And by the time he came back to Britain in his late 20s, he then went undefeated in Britain and Germany and won a world title and, as you know, defended it for 7.5 years. So that was an incredible story, but he was young. And also, the chin hadn't been a problem. And I think with David, he's been knocked out a few times now. I think it's going to be really tough. So he could go and rebuild. I'm not going to tell any fighter to retire. It's their business. It's how they make their money. But I think it's going to be really hard for David. And I really feel for him because he's a lovely guy. And I think a lot of British boxing feel the same way as I do. But it will be a very, very tough road back should he want to continue.
I believe we have you and Sky to thank for Carl Froch not fighting again, so thanks for that, Adam.
I think Carl's made the right decision at the right time. I think that he's just turned 38. I know that he was worried about every week that went past of inactivity after the Groves fight at Wembley. Yes, he could have gone out just straight after that on the biggest stage, obviously, as he keeps reminding us, 80,000 people. But
when was that?
He took his time. He took his time. I think he's had enough ribbing about that. I think he's took his time. He wanted to fight in Vegas. It didn't happen with Chavez for various reasons, injuries, politics, etc. I think that was the only box left to tick for Carl. When that didn't happen, I think he found it very difficult to get remotivated for the likes of sort of your James DeGale or Groves again or somebody else, Andre Ward, Bernard Hopkins were talked about. I just think that Carl, for every month that went on, was more and more likely to call it a day. I've long wanted him as part of my team. I think he's going to become an excellent analyst. He already is a very good one. What he says is black and white. Not everyone agrees with him. I think that as his career sort of fades slightly into the distance, I think he'll get better and better at analysing other super middleweights, other guys around his weight class. Whereas before, obviously, he had a bit of an agenda. Would he fight them? Would he not? Now he's clear of it. I think you'll see Carl become an extremely polished analyst, a good commentator. He's got the gravitas. And I think also he respects every single fighter who gets in the ring, whether they're at the 4-round or 6-round level or whether they're world champions. So I think Carl's an excellent addition to the team. Am I sad he won't fight again? I'm sad we will never see the fight with Gennady Golovkin, because I think that would have been not one for the faint-hearted. But I think that it's a great move for him at the right time. He's made a lot of money. He's got a third child on the way, and he's going to be a terrific addition to the Sky Sports boxing team, KUGAN. So sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm sure we'll get over it in a few years. Last year, obviously, undoubtedly, the event in boxing was Froch Groves 2 in May last year. This year, in comparison, you're slightly disappointed that marquee, that breakout fight for Sky hasn't happened as yet.
I think we had it with Mayweather Pacquiao, so I think that
I meant domestically.
I know, but I think it's difficult maybe to have too many big fights on that scale. I think you need sort of a humdinger every summer. I said to Eddie when Froch and Groves has done this, so I'd love to do a sort of Wembley every year, because I think people would come out for that. Yes, we didn't this year. It would have been lovely to have Khan Brook, wouldn't it? Groves DeGale's a possible one down the line. Obviously, if Anthony Joshua keeps winning, the likes of Tyson Fury or David Haye, would be good. But there's big fights. There's big fights happening all the time. Saturday night was big last week. Great to see Carl Frampton go off in the States. James DeGale winning. Got Klitschko Fury in the autumn. There's a big fights that are going to continue to happen. Would I like another open air one? Yes, I've got one. Campbell and Cole coming up. Not quite the same scale, but it'll be a great one for Hull. Fantastic night. And then I'd really like to see a big major fight at Wembley next year. Or if it's Khan Brook, you could do it at Old Trafford or at the Etihad, somewhere like that. Personally, I always wanted to go to Anfield with David Price or one of the Smith brothers or something like that, and maybe that'll happen at some point in the future. But I think the key is to get a big one, big showdown, big domestic showdown for next summer. My choice, if you're asking me whether I want DeGale, Groves or Quigg, Frampton or any of that, my choice is Khan Brook. So help me, or help Eddie make it. Help us make it.
Everyone's trying. I think. Obviously, we've got Klitschko Fury coming up 24th of October in Dusseldorf. The press conference is actually for it tomorrow in Dusseldorf.
Yeah, I'll be going.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
So am I. So I'll see you there. But obviously nothing's been announced broadcast-wise, but is it a possibility that this will end up on Sky?
It's a possibility. Of course it is. It's a fight that we're all interested in, isn't it? I mean, it's a Brit going for the world heavyweight title. That is a huge moment. Vladimir Klitschko's reigned supreme for so many years. I think what he's done, he's an example of someone like David Price. If David Price really wants to continue, and as I say, he's not a young pup, so it's going to be tough. But if David really wants to continue, look at Vladimir Klitschko. He got destroyed by Corey Sanders. He got destroyed by Ross Purity, Lamont Brewster. He was down, 11 times at one point, I think they counted in his career, knocked down. Look what he's done. He's adapted his skill set, his style, and he's been undefeated for so long. He's been an absolute incredible ambassador for the sport and a phenomenal story, Vladimir Klitschko. Now in goes the loose cannon Tyson Fury with the skill set. He's tall, he's cocky, you never quite know what you're going to get with Tyson, but he can fight and he's got a big heart. Yes, he's an underdog, of course he is. They all are against Vladimir Klitschko, but I really can't wait for the build up to this fight, and I can't wait to see them in the ring together, because you never know what you're going to get with Tyson Fury. So let's bring the press conference conference on tomorrow. Let's see what happens, and as I say, we'll find out where it's going to end up TV wise. But it's a fight that the whole of the UK should be interested in, very much so.
Interesting to see if Shannon Briggs makes an appearance as well.
Shannon Briggs, you know. I go back a long way with Shannon, you know, the Lennox Lewis days and all that, and how they wanted to cut each other's hair off. And he's a character, Shannon Briggs. Always has been, always will. But I want to see Vladimir Klitschko, Tyson Fury, and then I want to see, at some point, hopefully, Anthony Joshua get his chance. I think Joshua needs a Fury, a Hayes, someone like that. I think Vladimir Klitschko may have retired by that point, but Shannon Briggs will keep making his noise, won't he? I mean, that's what they do.
Absolutely.
Deontay Wilder, we forget as well. You know, didn't look great last time out, but that's still a big fight for the Brits. So despite David Price losing, there's a lot of good stuff to look forward to in the heavyweight division.
And also Joshua, Dylan White at some point this year as well.
We think maybe December, but he's got to get through Gary Cornish first. Dylan White's fighting on a whole bill, so looking forward to seeing him. He was great on ringside the other week. Really enjoyed listening to the early life of Anthony Joshua through Dylan White's eyes, whether it's right or wrong. But there's no love lost there, is there? So that's going to be a great fight should Joshua come through September the 12th and Dylan White keeps on course. That's a great fight to look forward to. Real domestic rivalry, certainly in the south.
All right. Well, listen, Adam, thanks for talking to IFL TV. We look forward to the press conference and
see you in Germany.
I see there's no Kelly Maloney here today.
No, I think Kelly's not here. Tommy Gilmore's here, so I look forward to seeing Kelly at maybe the next one.
Let's hope so. All right. Thank you very much, Adam.